We're the Sparkle Jets. This is a podcast. It's called Best of Friends. Here we go now, yeah!
Hi, welcome to the Best of Friends podcast. I'm Mike from Sparkle Jets UK. I'm here with my bandmates, Jamie and Susan.
Hello.
Don't put that in my face.
Wow,
that was about a microphone.
Misconstrued. Also joining us today in the living room is Christina and Rex from Big Stir Records.
Hello.
Keep that thing away from me.
I didn't do anything.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry, I was just getting into the spirit of things.
And joining us is our special guest, author, drummer, pal, John M. Borack. Ladies and gentlemen.
Woohoo!
Thank you. Jamie, yeah, please put it away. Thank you.
So we've called this special meeting. There's a lot. Well, technically,
this is one entire band and 3/5 of another one.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah. So we there's a lot of places where John comes into the story here. He's very much part of the story. So we thought it would be fun to just have him come on and I don't know, see what he has to say.
I don't think there's been like a single one of these that we've been involved in or heard where John's name didn't come up in some very positive capacity.
Thank you for making it positive. I appreciate it.
We try.
Well, going back
We're
to
all about the positivity.
And you said there's there's actually 3 bands here.
There are. You're absolutely
ours,
yeah.
and then there's a dog, and then there's Sparkle Jets UK and Pop Dudes.
And there's my legendary solo project, Delicious Meat Star.
Ooh, yum.
Yeah.
I don't even want to keep
Rex,
that.
Rex, please put that away.
Put that away. Keep it to yourself, please. Get that away from my mouth.
It's something my kids said. Delicious Meat
right.
Star. They were tiny. It was hilarious. It had to be an industrial band of some kind.
In our first episode of this podcast, we talked about our band origins, and we very quickly almost skipped over the meat of John's importance in connecting us to all of this music.
So here comes the meat.
Yeah, here comes the meat. Wow. Yeah, I'm going to make sure this is the last episode. Good Lord. Anyway, so when we first got our CDs made and everything, and we were trying to figure out what to do with them and maybe try to sell some or get people to hear us at all, I made some, what do they call them, displays, and we sent Jamie out as our salesman to put them in stores. And our local store, which is actually one that, it's funny because I'd put some of my early cassettes of junk I made in high school on consignment at the original Pepperland Records, which I think was in, I don't know what city. It wasn't in Orange.
Like Anaheim/Stanton, I believe.
It was somewhere. I went there.
Catella.
And then they moved to Orange, which is just down the street from our little studio there. So Jamie went down and with the display, and I remember I still have the display somewhere or some of the art from it, and it was like we'd actually put the word power pop on that thing, and for a while there I thought I invented that term, or I might have read it somewhere. I didn't know it was really a style of music. I had no idea. It was almost something that I kind of thought we just thought up and thought it made sense.
All bands kind of go through that. So I remember when I brought up that term with a bunch of the kids around, the younger kids around, they were like, what is that? Is that like, grindcore, Selena Gomez or something?
Wow, there's an album title for you. Yeah. So it said power pop on there and a bunch of other stuff and had our graphics and everything. And maybe you can correct me, but I don't remember how much we were selling them for. It was really cheap, like $5.
$3.99.
$3.99. Wow.
Plus tax.
You remembered.
I do. I remember the day going in there. I went into Pepperland because it was sort of a Beatles-themed store, although they sold a lot of other stuff too. But I always went there for the Beatles-type stuff. I went to
You're into the Beatles, John?
What's that?
You're a Beatles fan?
Just a little. And went to check out at the counter and saw this, what do they call it, a POP display, I guess.
A power POP display.
Recommended if you like ELO, power pop. I'm like, wow. it sounds pretty good. I've never heard of these guys, but it looks like they're from Orange County. And, wow, I think that's probably an ELO song that they covered. Didn't you have a ELO cover on your first album?
A really obscure
Above
one.
the Clouds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I saw that, and I'm like, wow, $3.99. I'll take a chance on that, and bought the album. And, yeah, everything kind of took off from there. I thought it was a really cool record. Still do. It's a very, very cool record. And I think I told David Bash about it, and he booked Sparkle. That's David.
That's David right there. Yeah.
He booked Sparkle Jets at IPO. We did shows. They did shows all over. We had him at a park show we did in Orange County at Eastgate Park in Garden Grove, and that was 1998, I believe. And everything sort of took off from there.
Or it could be. It might have been 99.
But it seems like 98.
Because I put 98 on the CD, and then by the time we actually got it back from the manufacturer, I think it was 99.
Well, what was the manner in which you were partying? Was it like it was 19?
Oh, yeah. We were partying like it was 1997.
I don't remember, but when I wrote this... No, that's it.
I was dreaming when I wrote it.
when I wrote this, yes.
So sue me if this podcast goes astray.
It already has.
And keep that thing away from my mouth.
Oh, that was a Prince record.
Is this the funny episode?
Unreleased songs.
John and I are just going to make the same jokes at the same time. Yeah.
Cease and desist from Warner Chappell.
The AI detected a Prince
Just
cover.
for even mentioning his name
Yeah.
or saying a couple lyrics. It's like we've been banned from YouTube. Anyway, so you were at Pepperland. You bought our record for $3.99.
$3.99
You
plus
told
tax.
Bash. He
Yeah.
booked us, and then yada yada.
Yeah, then you guys started making the rounds and networking in and around the LA pop scene, and met so many of these other cool artists whose songs you do on the new record, Best of Friends. And, we've sort of become best of friends, which is really one of the cool things I've always loved about the pop scene is that, the music's great, but, it's the people you meet that makes it really special. And, people like you guys, everyone in this room, including Winston, four-legged friend, and other people I've met through music. That's what the gigs might go away, but the music sort of endures, and friendship endures, and
the gigs might come back.
The gigs might come back.
Unless you're a dick on Facebook, and then we'll just block you.
Yeah.
I want to get some of the timelines right too, because I'm at this point completely can't remember how the hell the Pop Dudes thing happened, because it happened right away, I guess. Had to have, because we came up with the stupid idea for the tribute album, like we've said in this show a thousand times, at our first major LA gig at the Gig West LA, where we made the joke, and then soon after it happened. So we couldn't have known you terribly long. And there's a Pop Dudes track on that album.
Good Morning Sinners.
And it wasn't even the first thing we did. We'd already done Helter Skelter and a couple other things, hadn't we?
The first thing we did, well, I think
it was Helter Skelter was the very first thing.
When I get to the bottom, I go back to the top of the slide. When I stop and I turn and I go for a ride, till I get to the bottom and I see you again. Yeah, yeah. Will you, won't you, want me to?
And that came about because I was just visiting you at your house in Fullerton, where you had your studio at the time, and we were just messing around, and I think you said, want to go downstairs and jam? And I said, sure. So we just kind of played, and then I think Kayla might have been there, my daughter, and she was, probably less than 2 years old at the time.
Yummy, 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 got lovely tongue, easy, but pretty. Yummy, that's sweet eternity.
Still in a carrier and a stroller and all that kind of stuff. And I remember her being there for a lot of Pop Dudes sessions, actually. You'd turn on a Disney movie, she'd be watching a Disney VHS film, and we'd be in there just banging away doing stuff. But
And you're listening to Moments in Rock History.
I'm pretty sure the first thing we did was I'm Down, just messing around. And I had no idea what I was doing. And I wasn't in any bands yet. I later joined the Dons and Receiver, and we did see stuff live as Pop Dudes with Jamie and Susan and tons of other people, Kenny Howes and stuff. But this was before then. I was just kind of behind the drum set going, how does this work again? Because I hadn't really played in several years. I played when I was a kid, gave it up in my mid-20s, didn't play again for 15 years or so. yeah, we just started messing around. I mean, just in your studio, and you push the record button, and
Yeah, that was the
you've
whole.
been regretting it ever since.
But that's a huge thing, though, because it's obviously you've been a big part of documenting this scene, and a big focus point for the writing about it. You have literally written the book on it twice. But if that's the initiation of you getting back into playing as well, that touches a whole lot of bases right there.
Yeah,
You played with
really
a lot of these guys.
I hadn't played at all, like I said, in a long time. And then after, playing with Mike, just messing around for a little bit, doing the odd live gig here and there and doing just our little recordings in the studio, that led to me being asked to join Receiver after the album came out, and then joining the Dons after the album came out, and then the Barry Holdship 4 after the album came out.
Yeah.
No one wanted me on their albums, apparently.
And the Armoires after the album came
the
out.
Armoires after, but before the next album.
And about 3 albums, 3 other bands too. There's other ones too, but we won't
I
mention
played with
all
Kenny
of them.
Howes for a while.
After the albums came out.
Never recorded with Kenny though. Yeah, but just
Yeah,
a lot of fun. And everyone I played with moved to a different state, except for Mike. Kenny moved away. Barry Holdship moved away. Ken West moved away from Receiver, and I have that effect on bands.
We're still here.
So
For now.
I wonder if you moved out of state, would they all come back?
Never. They'd move further away. Yeah.
It's true though. The people that don't live here in town, you seem to see them more than the people that you could see any day. You just don't ever run into them.
The last 3 years have been anomalous that way, though.
Just to clarify the Pop Dudes thing, since no one ever asks.
Wait, hold on. Could you guys talk about Pop Dudes for a bit? I would like. Can we explore the history of that?
Well, my thing with that was always like we literally started it by John just going into the drum booth, and I just put a guitar on and put a mic on me, and I was kind of in the other room just because it's a studio and that's what you do. And he would just start playing a song and just played it once, like one time probably, with it running, and whatever we got, and then I would set my guitar.
Like it. On my part,
then I'd put
anyway.
my guitar down and I'd pick a bass up, and I'd play bass and sing like another vocal on the same microphone, and then we'd mix that. Generally speaking, and that was it. And that's how most of those
two-piece
things.
power trio. It's
and that's how most of those things were for a while, and then because that's all I was really ever planning to do, and then it just kind of
as
went.
they say, shit got real.
Well, he started doing things with like he'd write a song or some lyrics with Robbie or some other folks or Carrie, and then so there are some original Pop Dude songs. Usually, I have nothing to do with those. I just do the bad McCartney covers, but
No, you do the great McCartney.
yeah,
Exactly.
and but John and I both love Paul McCartney, so that it's funny. I think probably 50% of the Pop Dude's output is McCartney covers.
And a lot of the stuff that we've done over the years, we never really plan anything. For the most part, it would be like, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? And when Kenny Howes was recording with Mike and lived with Mike, what do you want to do? I don't care. Then Kenny would say a song and Mike would say, I don't want to do that. How about da-da-da-da? And Kenny would say, I don't want to do that. Well, then what do you want to do? I don't care. And we can never figure out a song to do. We recorded a version of Waterloo, the ABBA song, at one point. And I remember specifically how that came about. We were trying to figure out what song to do. Kenny and Mike were sort of good-naturedly arguing, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that, I want to do this, I don't want to do that.
Well, mostly the things he mentioned, I didn't know what they were.
Right.
That's
So
really
then
what it is.
Kayla was in the studio with us. I think she was probably 2 or 3 at the time. And we're playing something, and she's dancing around. And I remember Kenny saying, wow, Kayla, you're like the dancing queen. So we started trying to play Dancing Queen, but it didn't work out. Then we went to Waterloo. And then Kenny and Mike both loved the move. So we did this sort of really slow move-like version of Waterloo. And that came about just because my daughter was dancing in the studio. It was just kind of a weird thing. It was really cool. It was really cool.
And that's a really rockin' version too. I love that. You guys did an excellent job.
Live once in Stanton at some show in the park.
Yeah,
I think the Masticators were on that bill too.
Or New Shoe was.
Might have been New Shoe. Yeah, but I remember us playing Waterloo there, and people looking really confused.
Well,
There's people at a carnival, you know, in conservative Orange County, going, I kind of recognize this song, but what are they doing to it? Which happens a lot with pop.
Well, every time we did a Pop Dude show, we always just kind of get together in a room and throw out song ideas and whatever kind of like didn't suck after the first try, we'd write it down.
Yeah.
If it didn't get through the first chorus, we would just move on to something else. But anything that we kind of got 90% through the first time,
right,
John would write it down on a list, and that would just be what we'd do at the show.
Yeah.
And I know that one time for that particular one, we had the idea of let's all do songs that were originally done by female artists. So we did Waterloo and Xanadu.
All the ooze.
Yeah. And You're So Vain and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah. I remember with Kenny one time we did Me and Mrs. Jones,
yeah,
which was pretty funny. And then we did
King Tut.
We did King Tut. Which was ridiculous, but it was fun. And then we did Julian Lennon's Too Late for Goodbyes, but it was done to the tune of If I Needed Someone, the Beatles song. So it was kind of that guitar riff, but with the lyrics to the Julian Lennon song. Which we probably should have recorded at some point, because that was really fun.
Well, it's too late now.
And the Dear Maker
can't record anything anymore. So,
what was the one we did? Poor Little Fool. We did Rick Nelson's song like Led Zeppelin.
That was the most hilarious friggin' thing
It is
I've ever heard
hilarious,
in my
but it
life.
sucks.
No, it doesn't suck.
It's
Mike
terrifying.
Thinks it sucks. Mike thinks it sucks.
I hate it.
It's Mike singing like Robert Plant, but he's singing Poor Little Fool.
I knew that I would fall, poor little fool. Oh yeah, I was a fool. Poor little fool. I was a fool. Oh yeah. She played around and teased me with a carefree.
That was the Pop Dudes thing, and we did a song for the tribute to Sparkle Jets. We did one of Susan's songs that they had in their band before I met them, because we were out of Sparkle Jet songs to do. So we did this song called "Good Morning Sinners," which was really fun. It was fun for me because we'd played it before, so it was nice for me. It was fun for me to be able to sing one of Susan's songs.
You need little love secrets to save with me.
But you know, the cool thing about the pop scene was seeing one of the cool things was seeing you guys sort of integrate yourself into the pop scene, because Orange County, even though it's not far from LA, seems like a whole world away from Los Angeles for a lot of people.
Them, yes,
yeah,
not
so
to us.
It's always a big deal. LA people don't want to come to Orange County. Oh, behind the orange curtain. Oh, it's so far away. Well, what makes you think it's any closer for the Orange County people to drive down to LA? It's not, but that's different.
Yeah,
somehow.
Here's the thing, dude. I talk to these people all the time. You guys are actually pretty close to Los Angeles, so you don't count. But it's these sons of bitches that live in Woodland Hills, Simi Valley, I don't know, frickin' Santa Barbara practically, that are like almost in Ventura County, but because it's still in the valley, it's technically city of Los Angeles, that they're like, oh, Orange County, wow, you live so far away. It's like, bro, I can get to the gig faster than you can from your armpit of the valley, wherever it is you live.
You Woodland Hills sons of bitches.
I mean, it is a
so
weird
infuriating,
psychology,
dude.
But I mean, the thing about it, like for us at Big Star headquarters in Burbank, is you guys come to see us. Yeah. So we'd be kind of be dicks if we didn't come see you guys too.
That doesn't stop other people from being dicks.
Well, I mean, that's on them.
But that's not why we're here. Let's talk about music.
Yeah, it's
because nobody in music is a dick.
No, not in this room anyway.
Not in this room.
Except that one guy.
Oh, that one guy.
that one.
Oh, yeah, him.
We already talked about them. So
Anyway, what I was saying was it's cool how you were able to integrate yourselves into the LA pop scene, and everyone sort of welcomed you with open arms, because there were a lot of pop bands at the time. But the cool thing was not a lot of them sounded the same. Everyone sort of had their own unique style, their own unique spin on what people called pop or power pop. And you guys sounded totally different from everyone else. And it was just sort of cool how everybody sort of embraced the sound and embraced you as people, and all the collaborations started and the friendships began. And that's, sort of what this whole new record that you guys are putting out speaks to, just the friendship and the collaboration and the fact that you loved those songs and loved those people and they loved you back. I mean, you guys have a really great body of work and done a lot of really, really impressive stuff. And it's good to see you back doing it again.
Here, here.
John, how did you meet David Bash and get involved with the whole IPO scene?
Actually, I met David, believe it or not, through Darian Sahanaja from Wonderments and Brian Wilson's band. There was a magazine called BAM magazine. They used to give it away at Tower Records. And I would pick up copies whenever I'd go shopping there, and I'd read.
Stood for Bay Area Music.
Bay Area Music, and I got it right here in Southern California.
Yeah, it was
of
actually
course.
an LA version of it.
Yeah, otherwise it'd be Lamb, and that's just kind of doesn't make sense.
It's just that it's one letter away from being lame.
Right. It was not lame. Anyway, so I picked
Los
up
Angeles Music Express.
I picked up a BAM magazine, and this is before the internet. And it had a review of the Wonderments cassettes in there. There were 3, I think, a purple, green, and I forgot the third one. And as a contact, it had Darian, and this is probably even before email, it had Darian and his phone number. So I just called him out of the blue. We started talking about music, found out we liked a lot of the same stuff, and then he said, "You really ought to meet my friend David Bash." Oh, God. This would have been 90, maybe 91, maybe 92. About 30 years ago, though. And that's how David and I met. I think he was living in Orange County at the time. I want to say South Orange County somewhere. So I went to his place. We hung out, listened to music. He turned me on to a lot of stuff that I didn't know about, and then vice versa. I turned him on to a lot of power pop stuff that he hadn't heard, and that's how it all sort of began. And, through Darian, which is interesting.
It's kind of interesting, like just talking about the way that scene developed. It's so common to say, well, this was before cell phones or this is before the internet, to give context to these stories because people forget. It's so common to basically want to write a song that's just called "This was before cell phones," this was before the internet. But that was the thing that it's maybe difficult for people to understand. They've probably read about bigger scale scenes that happened. That came together, just kind of organically like that. But it's probably tough these days. I mean, it was probably something that might have been the last time that could have happened in a lot of senses. And
and also because now that we have the internet, we have a scene that goes beyond our geographical area of similar people.
Yeah.
And then we still keep in contact with the people that are local. But the thing is, because of the way it is, we wouldn't really all be in the same room.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't probably ever really meet and actually make music. I mean, I knew people that eventually I reconnected to in the scene that I knew really far back, like 1990. Is I think or 90, 91 is when I met Jeff from...
Jeff Shiro,
who's now on this label with Walker Brigade. I just met him doing gigs in Orange County, and even though he was like an LA-based band, I was in a band in Fullerton, and we played a show together. And I'd kept in contact with him for years. We also met the folks at Negro Problem completely organically, and we're doing shows with them before we met any of these other people. We'd met the Andersons and Robbie at a show that we just happened to book in Pomona before we actually started doing any IPO stuff. So there was all these connections. And it's not just a succession of you meet them and it goes from there. We had 10 different entry points into the scene that connected sometimes decades later almost that we really didn't know. Or you'll show up, it's like you show up at a party and there's people from different parts of your life and you're like, how do you guys know each other?
Right.
And it happens a lot for us, still happens all the time.
Yeah. I was just talking about that earlier with Rex and Christina. We were talking about Sound City Studios, and I just happen to know the owner of Sound City Studios, Sandy Skeeter. Boy, that's a Sound City Studios, Sandy Skeeter.
Hi, it's Sandy Skeeter from Sound City Studios.
I know her through Victor Irwin and the guys at Spider Pop Records, because she used to live in Texas. They're all good friends. And her dad ran Sound City for years. He's since passed away, so now she runs it. But we had a mutual friend who I used to work with when I worked at the cable company, Sandy and I. And that's how we kind of reconnected. Oh, I didn't know you knew that person. Oh, I didn't know you knew that person. And then It seems to happen a lot now, especially with the internet and music, and you see people that you didn't know knew each other, and then it just kind of connects everyone together.
Yeah, and you were dealing with Spider Pop, and they were doing stuff with Spider Pop. Was that because of you, or was that completely separate as well?
It's all connected
It's-
somehow, I
it
think.
is,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like the connections absolutely do continue to this day, which is evidenced by the fact that we've only been like a band for 9 years, and the label's only existed for like 6 years, and we're obviously pretty connected at this point. So it does definitely continue. And one of the things about that I was thinking is that that time, like maybe when the internet was nascent, is around the same time that we're talking about. So it was kind of like the last time scenes did coalesce that weren't completely driven by that. And it's probably true that like most cities don't have a critical mass of people that have the same kind of interests. Like in our case, there's probably not a huge pop scene in any given city. So part of the Big Stir experiment is connecting it up more city to city and country to country and stuff like that. So these people can kind of, it's what we can do with the internet because the scenes themselves are smaller. So that's the benefit of it. But it's not the same as one of those things where you're bumping into people at gigs and there's just like a real hot thing going on.
But the weird thing, if you've never been to LA or like actually lived here, and it's not like, I've been to a lot of places, and I'm not saying we're super different from anywhere else, but the LA metro area is super spread out. It's not concentrated. It doesn't have a center really. It doesn't.
No,
and
the center is literally where no one is.
And it's 100 miles wide. It's not a little thing, and it never really stops. It just keeps going and going until you run out of. Until you're in the middle of the desert or something. So
Mexico.
And there's no real central thing. There's no place where we all kind of like centralize. And the fact that any of us got to know each other at all is kind of, especially without the internet, is kind of amazing. The internet did help. I'm not going to say it didn't, because I don't think there would have been a Poptopia or an IPO festival if there was no internet at all.
Yeah, we're talking about mailing lists and oddities. And
Yeah,
things like
yeah,
that.
the oddities mailing list.
Really
yeah.
central to that, but it's so completely different from the internet as we know it at this point. It's strange to think we were all probably kind of early adapters for our ages.
Well, a lot of it started with the magazines back in the 90s.
True.
Also, it started with Yellow Pills magazine, Oddities magazine, Amplifier. I've been writing for Goldmine for a long time. And I've met some people just through my writing for Goldmine. And funny story, we were talking about Spider Pop earlier. Alan Pecci, the owner of Spider Pop Records, used to have a band called the EPs. This is back in the 90s sometime, I believe, after the Penguins, or maybe during the Penguins. And when Alan and I reconnected and I started going to Arlington, he told me one time, when you reviewed our EP's record, that was one of the proudest moments of my life. My mom cut out the article, and she kept it until the day she died. And I'm like, oh, my God, I don't even remember reviewing the EP's record. But it was 1994.
Wow.
And I reviewed it in a little newspaper I wrote for called the Garden Grove Journal. And I guess he had sent it to me because he saw my writing in Goldmine. So that's how people connected back then.
Yeah.
And then 30 years later, he remembered that I had written this article that his mom had, kept for however many years. It's kind of a cool story.
Very.
Yeah, there was more effort required in getting yourself out there, and therefore, like whatever you did manage to do that got any kind of attention, had some real heft to it, as opposed to you being able to just throw anything on Bandcamp and say you're an artist or whatever. So, and it kind of rippled through there to the point where we know a John Borack review it has some meaning, or we know that something that's being published in Oddities is of some significance. It's tough to. Imagine anything that has quite that sort of. It's a little bit more stratified now, I think, with the internet. It kind of equalizes everything, but in the same sense, it also means that nothing really stands out as much.
It's good and bad.
Yes.
Because sort of like how everybody who has instruments at their home and a way to record thinks they're a musician. Everyone who has a computer and access to the internet thinks they're a journalist.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's
you
all musicians and journalists are not created equal is what I'll say.
That's correct, and you have a foot in both of those
those worlds of where the playing field is maybe too level.
But it's cool that, however many years later, it's all kind of coming back around, going back to sort of where it started by you guys doing this Best of Friends record, which not only, will hopefully get people to, go back and listen to the original recordings and the music these artists have produced and continue to produce, but also the great music Sparkle Jets UK has done over the years with some more coming. And, it's a win-win for everyone, I think. And it's a really cool project, a really great CD. I've had the pleasure of hearing it. And, it's not only music, it's all about connections. And this disc will do that. It's cool.
I had a question for you. I mean, you've spent some time with it already, and we're talking a lot about the connections, but we also have to, in a certain sense, imagine this hypothetical person this is the first thing they're ever going to hear from Sparkle Jets and may not be familiar with this original material. And we hope it is a gateway to discovering that. But as its own thing, it damn works, doesn't it?
It does, because it really has, even though it's a collection of covers, it has all the earmarks of a traditional Sparkle Jets UK release. It's got Mike doing, straight pop stuff. It's got Susan singing on stuff that's maybe a little bit left to center, which is the cool stuff that she writes too. And, it sounds like Sparkle Jets. It doesn't sound like, we're going to do this song and that song and this song and throw it all together and hope it works. It hangs together as an album. And, hopefully people will realize that when they hear it. And, like I said, go back and investigate Sparkle Jets' original music, Mike's original music. And, yeah, like I said, it should be a win-win for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're discovering Mike and Sparkle Jets both in the UK right now, and are asking for more. So this is an exciting time for you guys.
Wow.
And yeah, we're just honored to be a part of it.
Thanks for doing all the work to get it out there. I mean, I was going to mention this earlier in another episode where we were talking about the label and how we're doing this stuff together. It's like, as artists, especially that can record on our own, we can I can make a record right here, right now, and most of us can do it at a pretty high level internally without having to hire people or go anywhere else. I mean, I can get the whole thing done right here in my kitchen. But that said, what do you do after that point? I can throw it up on the internet and hope that people will notice, but the reality is they really don't. And the one thing, and us having like real lives and jobs and things that we have to do all day, promoting the music is really difficult. And it's one of the nice things that you guys bring to the table with the label is that extra, layer of helping get the word out. This is kind of beyond what we really have the bandwidth to do on our own as a band. And that's kind of what's really the great thing.
There's just so much music being made now and
kind of
going up on
noisy
streaming services that it's nearly impossible to get noticed,
Yeah.
So we've built up our database of industry contacts that respect our work and what we put out as much as we respect theirs. So it's more about building. It's another way of building the community is to elevate the publications that write about or that include our artists,
The DJs.
the
And it
reviewers.
has a thread through it.
It does.
A quality marker.
And they discover each other, and they become peers and friends,
Yeah.
and so the community just gets wider and wider and wider, and worldwide too.
Yeah, so it is as if we're picking up that community thread that informed this scene to begin with.
Right.
And
It was missing when we first started. It felt
or dormant is maybe a way to look at it, or people had gotten frustrated and they'd gone on to do their real life their life things. But it is what makes us work well for the artists is that the artists work well for us. And if it weren't for the sort of phenomenal quality of the music that we're putting out,
Yeah, it's like what Susan said earlier. First of all, I'm a fan, so we're fans of everybody on the label. And it's got to be that way because we have no life. This is what we do. We have to love what we're putting out there.
Work this hard.
No.
That's the Big Stir credo. We have no life.
It's the Big Stir reality. But it's definitely true that the reason that we work is because the first thing that people notice coming from us is good. Because how many times you've sent a release to the same magazine or the same writer, the same DJ, that they ignore it. If you're just like one artist, you'll know. Yeah. It doesn't catch, and you can be a jerk about it, but you're basically, it didn't happen for you. What happens if we're sending it out there for you? Then it turns out it's good. Turns out we put out good stuff, and then they'll maybe see the next artist who actually is of that same quality level, and eventually we establish ourselves not because we're great, but because we're doing a good job of presenting stuff that's great on its own.
It's a overarching umbrella brand, and
eventually these folks will be they'll open up. I'm sure John can speak to this. We'll open up their email in the morning, and there's 30 submissions from no-name artists and a few from folks that they are hit and miss, and then they might just be like, the last 3 Big Stir things were from really good artists. Maybe this is where I'm going to go with this.
And the really cool thing, and I'm not going to say any names because it's still up in the air, but next level artists, like with a history of being
like
in
way
Billboard's
better than
top 100 albums of all time, are finding us either in Twitter or in email through our website and just saying, I didn't know about you guys, and I'm really liking the vibe, and your little slogan, "Pop outside the box." I really like that because that's me,
And we like it because when people do notice us and take a look at us, they're sort of not seeing us like push one thing. Since we started as a community thing, you'll see that any chance that we get to highlight something where 2, 3, 4 of our artists are on the same playlist or being written about together, it's funny because sometimes we'll say that it makes it look like a family or look like a party or look like something that you'd want to be a part of, but it actually already it is. It looks like that because that's what it is. To us is that the back and forth between these artists that are playing together, recording together, influencing each other, or just playing like each other's stuff, and are enthusiastic about talking about it. It looks like a family, and it looks hopefully like a family that you want to be part of and can be.
We're not a cult, though. Yeah.
That's the other Big Stir credo. We're not a cult.
We're not cult artists.
We're cultivating a new audience.
That's true.
Amongst the people that we that might have already known about this, other people that might have been hip to this music but not the full scope of it, or maybe they were over here and now they're seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah, that's the collapsing of the Venn diagrams that we always talk about.
And because we all know that, I mean, let's be honest. None of us here are 22, and we know that pop music is a young person's medium. And even when most of us were doing this 20 years ago, I was one of the youngest people in the scene. They were mostly about 7 years older than me, and we were already kind of like past the sell date for pop music, for real current hip groovy stuff. At the time we were doing our thing, what were the big bands? Blink 182. You know what I mean? And a lot of even the pop punk stuff, they were doing very similar music to us, but like without the kind of like tasty Baroque underbelly that most of our music had.
Other folks that were doing Baroque, and that was it.
Right. Because we weren't that different from those bands that we were contemporaries with, except that they were getting all the attention because they had the backwards hat on and all that crap. and now they're old as shit. Everyone is. It's okay. And it's just like, I think everybody wants to just, find new music. John's got his hat on backwards.
John turned
But he doesn't have spiky hair.
But he doesn't have hair at all.
But why are you wearing a hat at all? Yeah, that's the thing. But so it doesn't matter. But we're also realizing, I don't know, I can't speak for all of you, but as I get older, it's just kind of like, I can think back about what I didn't do or what I did do that no one cares about. I can cry about it, or I can make more music and make myself happy the way that I needed that. Why did we do this then, or why did you write songs or want to make records when you were in your 20s? That probably hasn't left you or anyone else
Not the people we hang out with.
So let's just make it, and hopefully, even if it's just a bunch of weirdos that hear it, there are weirdos, and we are them.
And I think there's a thing that it's a Robbie Rist kind of train of thought that yeah. But it's less sweary and political. It's the heart and soul of Robbie that people pee-pee. Great. Take two. The kind of heart and soul thing that connects with music about Robbie that people kind of don't notice past the gruff exterior. But there's something he wrote about this for our magazine, and it seems more and more true to me, is that there's actually a great freedom that comes with the fact that there's no way in hell we're going to be mega sellers, which is that you don't have to do anything calculated or pandering anymore. You know, you've shown you can
be true to yourself.
Yeah, you've shown you can do it. You know, and you've shown your absolute competence, your sort of mastery of your craft. But if there was ever a time when you felt like, well, this isn't the cool kind of stuff to be doing right now, so I'll do this instead, or I'm never going to get a record deal if I'm doing this, so I'll do that. We already passed the MA17 filter, so just fuck it. You can do what you want, and your heart will be more fully in it. You're probably going to be inspired to bring more of your absolute A game to it. And it concerns me sometimes that like people try to follow this sort of we're too old to be following the method the kids do, where they're just kind of trickling singles out onto Spotify or whatever. We're part of an art form that clusters around that idea of an album. We all
the
talk
experience
about
of an album, of holding it and reading the liner notes and looking at the artwork while it's spinning.
I feel like singles disappear.
They do.
It doesn't matter how good they are. They disappear from my own consciousness.
Well, you can't. You can continually say, "Oh, this single got that many streams, and this one got that many more streams." You're not leaving an imprint or a benchmark or a place where you
physical
really
footprint.
And it's not even so much the physical, although that's an aspect of it. I think it's sort of the idea that albums are just deeply embedded in the rock experience as we know it, and they tend to be when a person says, "Here's where we are right now,
right
at this point on our artistic development journey," and it has its own feeling of its own time and space. Right. And if we
like a time capsule,
it does that for the listeners too.
Yeah, and
you think about albums you love and like what you were doing when you got them, and
they bring about a certain time and memories, and singles do disappear from the consciousness. And might I add, EPs are weak.
I've heard that
literally what that's all about.
Yeah,
and singles are weaker.
Are weaker. That was
right.
Yeah. B-sides. Yeah. But I think that's something that it's a little bit throwing out the baby with the bathwater for artists of our age to try and get on that got to crank out a single thing, because especially for people that have been practicing this craft and honing this craft and listening and making stuff at the same time, it's there's a lot to offer in terms of creating like a full album experience, and we don't want to lose that. I think that just like, in terms of leaving any kind of artistic legacy behind, just imagine your interview is just you saying, well, I did that single with that guy, and then I did this one feat someone else. It's just the interviewed substance kind of is lacking, or the history or the identity thing. Even it's just so much more to be able to say, to even talk about the Sparkle Jets records. There's the original group, the original couple of albums, and the things that went along with that, and this record, and then the thing that's going to come after that. It's a lot more of a way to look at someone's journey, how it might parallel yours, how it might inform yours, how it might even change. I think it'd be a shame to lose that, and even if it's a smaller audience looking for that kind of experience, let's give them some good stuff. And
Absolutely.
Let's give them some
our singles that come out digitally before an album release are teasers. They're supposed to build the buzz and get you interested in buying the actual album. holding it in your hands and looking at the artwork, you know.
That's
all
what
of that
singles
stuff.
did back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, for the most part, unless you were the Beatles and, you know, released singles independently of albums, but that's a whole different...
There's a whole sideline of that happening and existing, and it's fun to talk about that for sure. And there are people that'll say, you know, and rock and roll started as a singles medium, but I mean, I think most of what the path we follow was redefined by those Beatles records and the people that, you know, immediately following it, where they became album experiences, you know, in a big way.
Yeah, I mean, you think of some of the Beatles' biggest songs that weren't even singles in the UK, like Yesterday, for example.
Yeah.
Wasn't a single in the UK and one of their biggest selling songs here and probably one of their best known, but it was just an album track, you know, for them in the UK. It wasn't even a big deal. But yeah, it's nice to get the singles out there ahead of the albums. To kind of give people a taste of what to look forward to and kind of whet their appetite for purchasing the entire
and I think
record and get the buzz out.
You know, even if folks are going to give up on you know, owning the thing, it's still, you know, even if you just stream the 12 songs that make up the album or the 20-some songs that make this, it still is you know, a singular experience that I think leaves a more lasting impression, or it's something that kids still listen to albums. They still talk about that. I mean, I know I've got a couple of them at home, you know, and
Interested in it.
the idea that listen, there's this whole weird idea that kids just don't have the attention span for it anymore, right? We know that's not true. We know they said that about us when we were kids. We know they said it about, you know, our parents were losing their attention span because all they did was read comic books, and then it was rock and roll, then it was video games, and it was the kids are still engaged. The kids
are listening,
all
the time. They just get fed a different style. And it's you know, they're also getting fed a lot of crap, but they're starting to find it on their own, because as our whole thing is widening, where it's like there's so much music you can't keep up. It's the same for them that the machine that was giving them just these songs is starting to dilute as well. So the mainstream is starting to not become a thing.
But that's in every generation. There are kids that are wired up to dig deeper, and kids that are fine with the surface level of it. I never believed this idea that the generations are getting, you know, more shallow as they go along. There's been horrifically shallow people in every generation. There's been the deep divers and the doers and the deep fans every time. Yes, I think that's true.
You know what's really cool for me is to meet young people who are into 60s, 70s, and the type of music we listen to, you know, power pop or whatever. A lot of those people I've met through the program Mike works for, Jamie used to work for, Susan works for now at Huntington Beach High School, MMET program. But it's just neat to meet people who have an appreciation for good music, especially when they're younger, because so many people don't like to listen to music with a lot of melody anymore. It's more about beat or it's more about rhythm. Or, you know, I do DJ stuff on the side, as some of you may know. And
master of three trades.
Right.
Okay.
I'm sure there are more.
If you insist. And I had a meeting with a family last week. I'm going to be DJing their daughter's quinceañera. I've never DJ'd a quinceañera before, and you know, the girl is going to be 15, so I'm thinking, okay, either it's going to be a lot of EDM or a lot of Taylor Swift or who knows what. I show up and they tell me that she wants a 60s, 70s themed music experience.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it were 80s too, you know.
80s are back in a big way.
But this young lady, she's 14, shows up wearing a Monkees t-shirt.
Aww.
And I said, okay, just give me an idea of some of the stuff you want to hear. She goes, well, definitely got to hear the Beatles, got to hear the Monkees, want to hear a lot of stuff from the Who and the Kinks and the Zombies.
Wow.
Oh, those last two are music to my ears, because that's a deep dive by current
standards. And I'm thinking, you're my new best friend. Right. You know, and it was just, it's really cool when younger people have an appreciation for what we listen to. And I listen to a lot of newer stuff too, because when you DJ, you know, you have to listen to a wide spectrum of stuff. And, you know, some of it I quite like. And some of it I think I'd be okay if I never, ever had to hear this again. God, can I please turn this off mid-song? But,
there was some stuff like that on the radio when we were, you know, we hated stuff too.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. True. But it's nice when people, you know, when you see young people have an appreciation for melody.
Yeah.
It's you know, it gives you hope. I
We were
guess.
fighting over Phil Collins last night.
I can feel that coming in the air.
Right.
Tonight.
Well,
I know we're getting close to wrapping this one up, and I wanted to say basically how much we appreciate you, because there's been so many times that John has always bailed out Sparkle Jets, and one in particular comes to mind when I was a librarian over at one of the high schools, and this poor school was starved for entertainment. The principal had banned all music because something bad had happened at one of the dances. So
Sounds like Footloose.
Yeah, it was just like that, and the kids were ecstatic that Sparkle Jets UK were going to play for a lunchtime gig.
And then I showed up.
Well, yeah, it kind of what happened was that our drummer, it was probably drummer number 4 or 5, coming from the valley, basically got in a car accident or bumped his bumper onto something, and it ticked him off. So he went back home, and we keep wondering, where is he? When's he going to get here? We finally get in touch with him. He says, "Yeah, I'm not coming." So we're freaking out because we've got about 30 minutes before we're the downbeat to play for
We're all set up. I took the day off work
Yes.
or something for my real job.
Oh,
Went
guys.
down there with my stupid stacked amplifier, and we've got all this crap set up in the middle of the campus, and there was no drummer coming.
you guys, or
So-
at least you were there when the exact same damn thing happened to us.
Yeah.
And
So-
guess who bailed us out?
Yeah.
So we
He's
called.
sitting right over
I
there.
think
He
Mike
goes-
probably called John up because maybe John can help. And John left work, went to his house, picked up his drum set, arrived. He was just setting up as the bell rings and all the high school kids are coming over. And I don't know if you know this, John, but there's a double-page ad in that high school's yearbook, and you're in there with us.
I didn't know that. Was that Marina High School? Is
It's
that what it was?
Ocean View.
Ocean View. Yeah, same thing. Wow. No, I did not know that. I remember that happening. And I remember it happening, of course, with the Armoires at the Orange County Fair. I have a habit of being in a place where drummers don't show up.
Now, does that have to do with you or most other drummers?
I don't know.
You're just happen to physically be there.
But it's it's kind of it's nice to be able to do it, but it's a little scary, especially when you're not 100% confident in the material that you're playing.
Yeah.
So my goal is let's just try not to screw this up. And
That's always my goal.
That's that's always my goal is to not try to screw something up. But it's funny because the same thing happened to me 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
A buddy of mine called me, who's a drummer. John, I threw my back out, but we've got a gig tonight in Huntington Beach. Can you make it? Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, sure. What are we going to play? Oh, I don't know. You know them all. I'm like, no. What are we going to? Oh, we'll have a set list for you. So I played songs I've never played before in my entire life, and it was fine, but it was kind of a last minute thing. And it's
Those are the fun shows, though.
it is fun. Well, especially when it's covers. But the 2 times I played, with Sparkle Jets and with the Armoires, it wasn't covers, and I didn't really know the parts to the songs.
They're
Like,
not
well,
easy songs.
let's
The
just
great-
sort of tap along and try not to mess
The
it up too
crazy
badly.
thing about that show that where you jumped in and did that for us, and obviously it turned into the permanent gig. So you did fine. But first of all, it was probably maybe 45 seconds notice,
Right.
as opposed to
Right.
a half hour and or anything. And the second thing was that I was like, this will be fine. I'll just let you know when the changes are. And I turn around and what would normally be me off mic saying, okay, and there's a giant plexiglass screen
Around John.
that absolutely prevented any kind of communication of that type whatsoever.
Yep. Yep.
But obviously it did work out. So
Oh,
there you go.
that's where it was that day.
There
The
were,
one where we had where I did my set, and
Yeah.
then we did the
You guys
It
did
was
the Beatles
Yorktown?
set.
Pop Dudes.
John rescued us.
No, it wasn't Pop Dudes. That was the day
IPO.
Test Pressings played, right? The day that my brother Gary was there to see us, and Test Pressings played right before you guys.
It was
before us
Test Pressing
now?
was on that bill, and Spy Genius, I think.
Yeah, so that wasn't
Spy
Pop
Genius
Dudes.
But
show
the first time
was-
John
was-
bailed us out
was
was
with Pop Dudes, and they because I remember the screen. It was Spy Genius, me doing my own songs with him, and then a Pop Dudes set doing. What did we do? The Beatles
all the way through
third album or
Beatles,
something.
Yeah, Beatles record.
We
yeah.
did Meet the Beatles.
Yeah, did meet
Yeah.
the Beatles. Yeah.
The entire
the
Meet the
first time
Beatles.
John bailed
That was
us out
when we.
was
that
IPO
was-
gig.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, the first time you bailed us out was an IPO gig.
What was it?
Did I?
Yeah, remember?
No.
No.
No one remembers but you. But
He
hopefully it
wasn't
was good.
showing up for the first 15 minutes.
No, that was the same day.
No, that was the
Oh, that
same
was
day.
The
He
same
didn't-
day. That's why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It
He
was
didn't show
pretty
up, but
traumatic.
I
You have
wasn't
to
there at the
forgive me.
IPO gig to
Yeah, it
play
was.
that night.
Not to speak ill of
The dead. No, I'm kidding.
to us in our hearts. But
No. Things happen.
Things happen. We move on. No, but that was it. Was the fact that was twice in one day because
It was
we
twice in
played
one
the fair in the daytime, and then we did Big Star Night at Fado Dough. And I think the worst part about that was that we were like, "Oh, you guys won't believe." People were like, "How did the thing at the fair go?" We're like, "Oh, you won't believe it, but I'm sure it'll be fine now." And then we're on stage, and there's still no drummer. So
Yeah.
it was like with our first time that was like our debut for the the first time that we were putting out a record that people actually knew who we were like on that day. Let's edit all this shit out, except for the part where we say that John saved us. That part can.
He is our savior.
Oh, please, yeah, the savior. That's sure.
So John, we played that show, playing songs at
A
all.
lot. Oh,
You didn't know they existed.
There's a. I mean, I knew what they were, but I had never played them before.
I knew what they were.
Some
They
I
were a
really
song.
didn't know at all. Like, I mean, I know about Tennessee whiskey, but never played Tennessee whiskey. Now
There's
I
only
have.
2 chords. It's not that hard.
Well, I don't play chords. Mike has obviously played it quite often.
Actually, we have. And I've never heard of it either.
Well, it's very popular.
I followed it along.
It's very popular among the people.
The people, sort of like old.
But
Town
yeah,
Road.
we played a Kiss song, which was kind of fun.
Well, there's some power pop for you.
Rock and roll all night. But is it power pop?
I mean,
Anyway, rock and roll all night is
hey, there you go.
that's a fun song to play on drums, man. Rock and roll all night.
It was
That
power pop when I called it "She May Be Nice." So there's that.
I remember
I like
mentioning
it.
that and you getting mad at me when I
yeah.
reviewed it. Hey, the opening to this sounds like Kiss's Rock and Roll All Night. Why'd you have to mention that in your review?
I like the fact
Because
that
it sounds like the beginning of
you know,
Rock and Roll All Night.
It's not really, that hedonistic because they only want to rock and roll all night and part of every day. Is that? Is that?
It's because they're older now.
Yeah,
Did
they
I get
got to
that-
sleep sometime.
Did I get that right? Is that?
So they sleep in the mornings, and
That's what it said. They say
then,
right.
and then they rock and roll the second part of the
They
day.
And then they-
and then all
keep
night.
on dancing. The room gets a little lukewarm, not hot.
Yeah.
You drive them wild wrecks, they'll drive you
you're
crazy.
driving me
It
crazy.
just drive me crazy. Yeah.
Okay, let's stick the proverbial fork in this son of a bitch. Thank you, everybody, for being so kind.
What a segue.
and this fun little I don't know bonus episode here. It was feeling pretty bonusy, wasn't it?
Bonus with Borack.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've got a bonus.
I hardly know us.
All right.
Please don't edit that out. That was pretty funny.
We have an Armours record to make. Let's go do that.
Yes, we do.
Sayonara.
Sayonara.
Adios.